Alright, now welcome back to the channel. Well, time to go and set that thing in today. Sorry about that camera just now. I'm gonna pull my boat out right there. I didn't work on Sunday, we just rode around and all. When I stuck my diaper on it, we're gonna go ahead and get this thing stuck in real quick. Get everything fitted up, start getting this thing ready. Nigel texted me this morning and said that he's about ready to swap cars with me, so I'm gonna go through and get this in here, get this buttoned up running right now first of the week. That way he can take this over to his shop and do what he's gonna do. I'm gonna bring his car over here, I'm gonna get it ready, start doing the paint and body. So y'all check out the videos later on in the week. I should be starting sand on his car and get the body work right. Wish us luck. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got the motor in. So now what I'm gonna have to do, like I already got the motor plate bolted in and all, I went ahead and silicone those right here and bolt them to the motor. So next, I'll take my water pump, I'll put my water pump on. But before I do that, on these LS motors, you never tighten your timing cover until you have your balancer on it. Put your balancer on it, it centers it because this plate can be moved, and then you go around and tighten your bolts up. So what I'm gonna have to do, because we spaced this out that wide, we gotta space the crank pulley out that wide. Because you got plenty of meat here for the seal and all. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go through and measure the gap here. And then I think somewhere around here, I have a old oil pump drive. I'm gonna build me a spacer to go up inside there that's that thick that I can stick up in there. And that way it'll space all my stuff out to be in the proper spacing as far as all my accessories, so we won't run into having no belt problems. Also, I'm gonna get the motor on. I gotta go through and I gotta put 2 more bolts back there on the bell housing and tighten all that stuff up. And my two mount bolts for my transmission mount, I got bolted up. But I'm gonna stick the wiring harness on it here soon with the valve covers and the coils, and I'm gonna get this thing ready to fire up so I can fire it up. And I'm gonna pull the manifolds back off. I'm gonna retorque all the heads. Then I'll put my valve covers back on and I'll finish everything else up. So right now I need to look about getting the spacer built for the crankshaft to space that pulley out to where I need it. And then I can start hooking up wires. So I've had a few people ask about, what are you gonna do about that motor plate being able to go back and forth flex, because if you don't put a brace on it, then ideally this whole motor can shake like that, because you ain't got number 2 thin pieces of aluminum and a piece of steel holding it, and it can flex back and forth. And I'd watched Turbo John's video too about, he talked about this a long time ago, back when he first started YouTube. I watched him and I was like, you know, that makes sense. He put a bar from here to the chassis to lock it up. Well, I got thinking, when I done this deal, I thought about the same thing, because ideally all I'm doing is taking stress off the side of the block. These stock blocks, they say, you know, the sides of it is the weakest part because it is stock. And you gotta worry about it cracking right around the sides of the block on both sides. Tops of the cylinders will blow the side of the block out. So I got to think, I said, well, you know what? Here's what I'm gonna do about it. These were already on it before. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna come in here, I'm gonna bolt it to the block. I don't have to bolt it to the K member. You see, I can put the bolt to the K member and it'll add extra strength. But all I'm gonna do, I'm gonna bolt that to the block here and there. And ideally, that'll keep the motor from being able to move back and forth. That'll just allow it to be just in there. You know, it won't be, the main side is the left side. That's the side that the motor torques this way and lifts on, that you gotta worry about, not so much as this side pushing down. So I said, I'm gonna just put the stock mount back on it. That mount, it's just a little extra bit of work. I can put 2 bolts or 3 bolts in it, the cross bolt, whatever I want to do. I can put both of them back on it, and all it's not gonna hurt nothing. You understand? Like, it's not. The main thing is it's rigid now to the car. This tubular front end is tied in through the motor plate, so that stiffens the front of the car this way, side to side. It stiffens it up. Plus, we're stiff back there. It squares this up tighter. Makes all this more rigid. It takes a lot more flex out of it. And also, it'll take some flex out of that block, because it's not, all the weight's not just pulling from there. Now we're pulling from the front of the block and the back of the block. That's where it's keeping it rigid. So ideally, those got poly mounts in it. That thing right there won't, I can put the bolts in. It's not gonna put no stress back on the block, because ideally you'd have to, one of these would have to break up here for it to put any stress on it. That's what our plan is. I think I found something that about annoys me about as much as that low car dipstick that I just replaced and got rid of. Sorry, I've had about 56 scammers today call me, getting on my nerves. This cap used to leak around it, so I had Nigel weld up. I said, oh, don't worry about it. I said, I'll go through and I'll just pull the valve cover off if I need to put some oil in it. Well, I realized with my car on the jack like it is, I can't pour oil in because it wants to run over the rail. So I had to build this contraption. And like I said, it's a slow, when you're pouring straight 50 weight in this wintertime, that thing right there is slow. But we getting there. Man, we getting close to hearing this thing run. Fix to put the intake on it. Got the wire harness laid out, plugged up. I got to put the starter on it for now. I'm not even going to hook the flex plate bolts up. We'll stick the starter up on it, put the crank sensor up under there, and then once I run it, I'll come back through, and this is like my wideband and my vacuum lines and all that. I'll tie all this out of the way just to fire it up. I put a little fitting in here. I'm gonna zip tie that down in there, hopefully. Or I might, I don't know. I'm gonna do something with this feed line right here. I need to block it off. But I'm gonna do something so that way it don't throw oil everywhere. We're gonna fire this thing up here shortly. I ain't got no alternator belt on or nothing. We're gonna watch our fuel pressure. We're gonna watch our oil pressure here. We're gonna spin it over and see if we can't crank it up. She's wanting to run. Just trying to let it crank and get that oil pressure up. I got TPS there. There we go. Tell y'all, it's wild how much flex is here once the front's tubed without the motor plate. So I had built all this stuff on the ground. When I jacked it up, put it on the jack stand, I'm putting the motor in it, getting it all like it's supposed to be. Well, I pulled the motor plate loose and that motor plate slid over a 1/4 inch. I said, man, that's weird. So I started to elongate my holes. I started messing. I said, well, I got her here and put her on there, was messing with it. Put me a screwdriver in the block and pulled, and this whole thing would go. You'd watch it move because the spring pressure pushing down, and then that right there pushing on the lower control arm, it stretched all the way out. It was pulling over. So I laid it on the ground instantly. Everything lined up perfect. Put my water pump on it. Now just finished cleaning up some stuff. I got to pull the manifolds off, torque the heads, and get on putting the turbo kit on it. We getting there though. Hook my oil feed up to my turbo, I'll be good. It's looking pretty decent. I wanted to show y'all this. So my motor's always been tight in this area right here with the turbo, especially after a wreck. I used to have about a 1/2 inch of clearance here, and then when we had a wreck, this right here got ginked back. Well, when it got ginked back, it used to almost touch. Well, now that I've moved the motor plate, spaced everything out, now we're touching. So here's what I figured out I can do. So a little backstory. So years ago, about almost 4 years ago, I raced Billy the Kid, and at a 17 no prep race. So that's kind of what got the YouTube stuff started. Was when we raced, I was like, these dudes are living the dream. Let me try doing the YouTube stuff. So I started putting videos together. I raced Billy. I went to round 4. Turbo John was there. Turbo John made it down to the last 6 people. We're coming up to round 4. I outrun 3 cars on the way to round 4. I broke an alternator belt. Well, at that time, we didn't have this extra tensioner. We didn't have, the way we had it, it had that one, but it didn't have this one down here. And when it broke the belt on it, we couldn't find one. We looked, it was Christmas time, like 5 days, 6 days before Christmas. Cold as crap outside. We looked and looked and looked. I tried to find my old belt, couldn't get it on there. I figured out that the belt had broke on my way up to chip draw. So, or no, on my way up to after the chip draw, I was on my way. I fired the car up to go race. To pull that out, I realized my alternator wasn't charged. I got out and the belt was off of it. So I decided not to run the car because I didn't want to hurt the motor because the fuel system was maxed. So it ended up, it was they split it. So basically we made it down to 7. They split it 6. And everybody took home $4,400 and I took home a car with a broke belt. So since then I added this extra tensioner to it. And I got 3 of these belts in my truck at all times. They ride in the back of my Jeep always. Year round they're in the Jeep with me. Just in case if we're ever out, I'll have it on there, but it won't cost me no more money. So I've been really, really big about not wanting to change stuff. So that's why, like when I put the motor plate on it, I said, well, everything's spaced out, I'll space the crank out because I don't want to start slinging belts and crap like that. That's why we have the intake tube that comes up, because I've always been scared if it breaks a belt, tearing up that $4,600 turbo, you know? So that's why, like, I have my cold air intake pipe through the hood to keep it from anything be able to get into it in the engine bay wise. So what I did figure out though, I could take this, hold on 1 second, let me get it. As you can tell, I've done made my marks, but I figured out that, I figured out that the bolt's long enough that I can move it down to that bolt, put it through here. I'm gonna have to re-drill this hole here where I got a little bit of adjustment side to side, and that'll give me plenty of room over here. But I can also come in here and cut this off because I don't need it. Ideally, if I'm gonna use it like this, then I don't need this section over here, so that'll give me plenty enough room to get what I need out of it. Let me yank that off real quick. There you go, I cut it off. Now look at all that room we got now inside. I could always come back and cut that off too a little bit, bevel that edge, but we ain't worried about all that. The turbo's gonna cover that up. So now I'm gonna put my compressor housing on it, and I gotta hook my transmission stuff up, and we'll be ready to take it over to Nigel's. So I got the exhaust on it today. Let's fire it up. Well, she's together. Got to redo the lower radiator hose because my fitting stripped on my water pump. And I know down my radiator side I had a hard time getting it on, so I know it's cross-threaded. So I'm going to go ahead and order 2 new bungs, 2 new fittings. I got some leftover hose from when I done this one, and I'm going to redo that. I'm going to have Nigel figure out something else. I think I need to, I don't know. I might figure, I don't know, jibber jabber. But I think, see, I had taped it up at the last time we took it to the track because it was leaking or whatever, and I tightened the crap out. So I'm gonna have them put a new bung down here on this and build me a new hose and come around and go in there and redo that. We're gonna figure out something a little better. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. I'll see you one later. Thank you.